Will getting a prenup negatively impact your immigration case? Hi, I'm attorney Megan Pastrana of Immigration for Couples, and my firm is dedicated exclusively to helping couples across the nation and world in navigating the U.S. immigration process. I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you are notified when I release future videos. And I also encourage you to join me on my next weekly live chat at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday. I host these weekly chats on the YouTube channel and then also on my Immigration for Couples Facebook page. So you can follow there as well. And during those live events, I answer the audience's questions live. And if I see you there and you have a question, I'd be happy to answer yours. All right, so let's dive into this topic. This was actually something that I was asked about on a recent live, and that's where I usually get a lot of questions and ideas for my videos because if one person has the question, likely a lot of you do. So let's talk about prenups. This question typically comes up in the context of fiance visa cases, though not always, but usually in the fiance visa context where the fiance visa has been issued and you're entering the United States on that visa and you're both excited to get married. And so sometimes part of that next step process and planning is a prenup. And couples will tell me, we really want to get a prenup. This is something we both want. We feel like it's important. We do and imagine and envision that our love is going to last for forever, but we do want the prenup for both of us to be protected. And we're really concerned about how immigration is going to view this prenup. And are you suggesting that, or would you suggest rather that we don't get a prenup? We don't want to negatively impact our immigration case. And this is a great question. And the answer is you should not get a prenup just because of your immigration case. Prenups are a great idea. Prenups don't mean that you don't love each other. It just means that you are wanting to have this practical financial planning tool that you want to make sure that both of you are protected in a worst case scenario of divorce. But it doesn't mean you don't love each other. It doesn't mean that you don't want to be together. It's definitely a conversation for couples that is uncomfortable. And it's not just for couples who are going through an immigration process. Prenups are a great idea. And it's also important to understand that a prenup is not something that you're going to want to include as evidence with your immigration case. So that's usually the next question of, well, would the prenup be helpful? Would immigration like to see that as evidence? And no, that's not something you're going to want to submit as evidence. It's not that you are lying to immigration, but it's not a piece of evidence that you're legally required to disclose. You're not required to provide that. And a prenup is not going to be helpful in proving your relationship. Though I have actually spoken with so many immigration officers over the years, and sometimes we've talked about prenups, and I've had some officers actually say that they can see that a prenup, their opinion is that a prenup would be a bona fide relationship evidence. In other words, it could be viewed as evidence that the relationship is real. I've had other immigration officers that are adamant that no, a prenup would raise a red flag and that would seem suspicious that a couple who's in love would get one. So you can see why it's a good idea that you don't include that as evidence because it's not a solid piece of relationship evidence like photos or joint bank account statements. So if you get a prenup, great. I think it's a great idea. And you don't and you shouldn't include it as evidence with your immigration case. Now, when you go to an immigration interview, if you are directly asked about whether or not you have a prenup, it's imperative to be honest. You do not want to lie to immigration if you are asked. And also, having a response. The immigration officer is likely going to ask, why would you get a prenup? And having a clear and logical response that you know you love each other, but you felt that it was a really important financial planning tool. It was to protect both of your futures, protect your assets. You know, you both came into the marriage and you wanted to have this clear definition of how you would handle things in a worst case scenario, but you're not wanting to think about that worst case scenario. You're planning to have your future together. But it's important that you're honest with immigration and that you have an honest response to their questions. It's not going to be what I just said, but it might be something different for you. Either way, when I have clients that are in this situation, I work with them on having responses to questions like that for the interview so they can be honest and clear and transparent and also not damage their immigration case in any way. So this was a great question, and I hope that this information was helpful for all of you. I invite you to my free resource center. I'll put it in the comments at immigrationforcouples.com. If you're wanting to learn more about how to prove your relationship to immigration, I have a free resource on that. So best of luck with your immigration journey, and thanks so much for watching.